If you think a luxury cruise can't hide a brewing disaster, buckle up. This one starts looking like a bonus package and ends like a termination notice. Make sure to subscribe and drop a like so you don't miss the twists rolling in ahead. The sun over San Marin, California hit the harbor with the kind of glossy confidence only the West Coast can afford. Down below, the SS Horizon Star, a steel behemoth polished to corporate perfection, prepped for departure. The decks buzzed with passengers flashing designer suits, curated smiles, and personal baggage they hoped no one would audit. I stepped aboard with my usual operating stack: polished shoes, gray tailored suit, and a mind tuned for pattern recognition. Name: Declan Harrow. Role: private investigator. Specialization: human failure points. Mr. Harrow, the purser flagged me before I even hit mid-deck. Big guy, uniform crisp, voice built to project confidence in quarterly meetings. Your suite is ready. Captain tagged your attendance at tonight's gala as a top priority deliverable. Understood, I said. Brief me on the passenger mix. He leaned in. High-impact personalities. Lydia Ashford, L.A. attorney, reputation polished, record flexible. Grant Vance, tech investor with a shadow-side ledger. And Corinne Duval, widow, wealth undisclosed, emotional profile unreadable. I nodded. That's not a guest list, that's a risk matrix. Up on the promenade deck, I scanned the environment. A woman in a champagne dress laughed too loud, the kind of laugh you deploy to hide a restructuring inside. A congressman type worked the crowd with a handshake polished smoother than his ethics. And near a lifeboat, a woman in a black veil stood still, ignoring the noise around her. No smile, no movement, just tension wrapped in fabric. The departure bell sounded. The ship eased away from the dock, slicing into the Pacific. San Marin shrank into a postcard behind us. I leaned on the railing, listening to the mechanical thrum under my feet and the subtler thrum of something wrong. Declan, Hastings, my colleague. Face red from the sun, mood permanently stuck on optimistic. You've got to admit this ship is a beauty. Hardware's solid, I said. User base is the concern, he snorted. Still paranoid. Come on, your suite's this way. You'll meet everyone at the gala, real star-studded lineup. We crossed the atrium, all chrome, glass, and ego. But the passengers gave themselves away. Micro-hesitations, darting eyes, whispered conversations that died mid-sentence whenever someone approached. Not fear, not yet, but anticipation, pressure, brewing conflict. The Horizon Star wasn't just launching a cruise, it was launching a problem. And my instincts, the little gray cells that never take PTO, were already pinging me like an urgent internal memo. This trip wasn't going to be restful. It was going to be a case. By the time evening hit, the Horizon Star had shifted into full presentation mode. The grand dining hall glowed under chandeliers so bright they could have doubled as budget overruns. Guests streamed in wearing suits, gowns, and expressions ironed flat for public consumption. Hastings nudged me as we entered. Come on, Declan, at least pretend you're off the clock. I gave him a look. You brought me here, remember? Yeah, he said, for once I hoped you'd relax. He said it like he believed it. I scanned the room, corporate instinct, habit, survival mechanism. Call it whatever you want, I don't turn it off. At our assigned table sat the three names the purser had flagged. Lydia Ashford, mid-30s, emerald dress, the kind of smile you give clients, not friends. She looked composed, but her fingers kept brushing the necklace at her throat, an expensive piece, heavy enough to have a backstory. Next to her was Grant Vance, built like a former athlete who traded muscle for capital gains. Confident posture, but the way his knee bounced under the table told the real story. The man was running mental simulations and coming up short. Across from them sat Corinne Duval, dressed in black silk, posture perfect. Widow, wealthy, unreadable. Her eyes tracked everything slowly, deliberately, like she was evaluating risk exposure in real time. The captain gave a speech, predictable, polished, mildly over budget in charisma. People clinked glasses. Music flowed. But beneath the polished ambience, micro-tensions pulsed like a hidden fault line. Midway through dinner, Lydia leaned toward Grant. I caught the whisper, even over the music. "You said it would be handled before the trip." Grant's jaw tightened. "Keep your voice down. It's under control." Lydia's smile stayed in place, but the temperature around her dropped 10 degrees. Across the table, Corinne Duval watched them with the faintest curl at the corner of her lips. Not amusement, recognition. I turned her way. "Not your first time reading a room like this, I assume." She didn't bother denying it. "People work very hard to appear composed," she said, "but stress always bleeds through the cracks." "Professional observation?" I asked. "A lifetime one." Then she lifted her glass, eyes still tracking Lydia and Grant. By dessert, I'd logged more behavioral tells than a week's worth of case files. Nervous glances, coordinated silences, a steward lingering too long at Lydia's chair, and Grant fumbling a silver cigarette case with his initials engraved in bold serif. The case slipped, hit the floor, and skidded under the table. Grant dove for it a second too late. I had already picked it up. He forced a laugh. "Slippery fingers, long day, sure." When the gala shifted into dancing, Hastings rose eagerly. "You in?" "Not tonight." He shrugged and disappeared into the crowd with someone's overly enthusiastic aunt. I stayed seated, reviewing the evening's data points. Lydia's tension, Grant's evasiveness, Corinne's silent analytics, the steward's proximity, the cigarette case, and a subtle undercurrent connecting them all, something old, unresolved, and waiting for the right moment to detonate. The Horizon Star wasn't just carrying passengers, it was carrying history, and tonight had only shown me the opening slide deck. I stood, straightened my jacket, and took one more look across the hall. Lydia and Grant were arguing quietly near the exit. Corinne observed from a distance, her eyes sharp as glass. The steward slipped away with suspicious timing. This wasn't noise. This was pattern, and patterns always lead somewhere. Night hit the Horizon Star like someone dimmed the lights on a tense boardroom. The gala noise thinned out, replaced by the hum of engines and the shuffle of passengers retreating to their cabins. I couldn't sleep, too many variables still unresolved, so I took a walk along the promenade deck. The Pacific wind carried that crisp, metallic smell that always shows up before trouble. My instincts flicked on like motion sensors. Near the portside railing, two silhouettes stood close. Tense, focused, not lovers, negotiators. I eased behind a lifeboat, catching the conversation in fragments. "You pushed this too far, Grant," Lydia hissed. Her sharp voice cut through the wind. "You said we were squared away before the cruise." "I told you it's being handled," Grant shot back. But his voice wasn't controlled like earlier, it cracked around the edges. "You know what's at stake." "Do I?" she whispered. "Because it seems like I'm the one left exposed." That word, exposed, hung in the air like a threat. Grant stepped closer. "You're not getting dragged into this, I gave you my word," Lydia scoffed. "Your word is worth less than your market projections." The two moved away, shoulders stiff, masks slipping. Whatever they were tangled in, it wasn't a petty argument. I stepped out only after they disappeared down the corridor, and that's when it hit, a scream. Sharp, panicked, slicing the quiet like a broken siren. It came from the direction of Lydia's suite. I sprinted. A crowd had already formed around her cabin. Lydia stood in the doorway, pale, shaking, silk robe clutched tight around her. "My necklace," she gasped. "It's gone, it's gone." The necklace she kept touching at the gala, the one she guarded like a lifeline. Hastings showed up in pajama pants and pure confusion. "What in the world, Declan?" "A theft, looks like it." Inside the suite, the jewelry case lay open on the vanity, velvet lining empty. No signs of forced entry, door lock intact. Window sealed tight. A basic theft, not a chance. I crouched, scanning the carpet. That's when I noticed a faint streak, a smudge of grayish dirt leading toward the porthole frame. Too small for a person to pass through, but large enough to stage an illusion. "Anyone else enter your room tonight?" I asked Lydia. "No," she whispered. "I locked the door myself. I don't understand how." The steward, Ellis, hovered nearby, sweating bullets. "I swear, sir, I just passed by when she screamed. I didn't see anything." I watched his hands trembling, restless. Not a good look for a man insisting innocence. Behind me, movement in the corridor caught my eye. Corinne Duval. No veil tonight. No expression either. "This ship," she murmured, "is full of people carrying old debts. When those come due, it gets messy." Cryptic, deliberate, and absolutely purposeful. Footsteps echoed. Grant arrived late, breathing hard, face flushed from more than just running. "What happened?" Lydia glared at him like he'd set the fire himself. "You know damn well what happened." Grant looked at me instead. "You don't actually think I think," I cut in, "you should both stay available for questioning." His jaw tightened. He didn't like being handled. The captain showed up, took quick statements, and dispersed the crowd. Hastings leaned in as the hallway emptied. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" "I doubt it," I said, "because this isn't a theft. It's a message," he swallowed. "And the sender, still on board, still watching." I headed back to my suite, but sleep wasn't on the agenda. I replayed the sequence. The argument, the scream, the staged break-in, the smudged dirt. Too many moving parts. Too much coordination. Someone wasn't just covering tracks. Someone was escalating. And something told me the necklace wasn't the only thing that would go missing before sunrise. At dawn, the horizon star cut through calm Pacific waters like nothing had happened. But the ship felt heavier, the air saturated with unspoken tension. I'd barely closed my eyes when Hastings started hammering on my door. Declan, get up. We've got a situation, bad one." I opened the door. Hastings was pale, sweating, and absolutely not built for crisis management before breakfast. "Where?" I asked. "Grant Vance's cabin." That was enough. We moved fast through the corridors, the kind of fast that tells passengers something's wrong even if they pretend not to look. A cluster of crew had formed around Grant's door. The captain stood there too, face locked in a grim, controlled expression. "Harrow," he said quietly, "prepare yourself." Inside, the cabin looked almost untouched, expensive luggage stacked, a neat desk setup, clothes hung with perfectionist precision. But none of that mattered. Grant Vance lay sprawled beside the bed, shirt rumpled, one shoe off, one shoe on. A thin trail of blood seeped from his temple into the carpet fibers, darkening the weave. Hastings exhaled sharply. "Dear God," I crouched beside the body. One look at the wound was enough. Blunt force, clean angle, deliberate strike. The murder weapon rested nearby, a chrome desk ornament shaped like a globe, heavy, smooth-edged. Wrong kind of item to slip and fall on. No signs of a struggle, no signs of forced entry, no signs Grant had ever stood a chance. "Time of death?" I asked the ship's medic. "Early morning," he said. "Between 4 and 5, far too close to Lydia's theft." The captain crossed his arms. "Looks connected." "Everything's connected," I said. I scanned the room again. Neat, too neat. Except a faint smear of the same grayish dirt sat under the desk leg. Same signature as Lydia's cabin. So the thief didn't just steal jewelry, they escalated to murder. "Who found him?" I asked. "Ellis," the captain replied. That name again. The steward hovered just outside the doorway, eyes wide, hands shaking. I motioned for him. "Walk me through it," I said. I was delivering coffee," Ellis stammered. His door was slightly open. I called out to him, but he didn't answer. "You touched anything?" "No, I swear." I watched him carefully. His fear felt real, but fear can wear a lot of masks. He excused himself before he fainted. As I stood, Corinne Duval appeared in the hall's edge, silent, observing. She wore simple clothes this time, no jewelry, no facade. Her expression didn't change when she saw the body, so I asked the obvious. "Not surprised?" "Surprise is a luxury," she said. "Some of us don't afford it anymore." The way she held my gaze told me she knew more about Grant than she'd ever admit voluntarily. Hastings pulled me aside. "Declan, is this a revenge thing? The necklace, the fight, and now this?" "No," I said. "This is strategic. Step 1 was pressure. Step 2 was chaos. Step 3, before I could finish, Lydia Ashford rushed in with 2 officers. Her face went white when she saw Grant's body. "No," she whispered. No, Grant," the captain stopped her from rushing forward. She shook her head violently. "This wasn't supposed to happen." Supposed to, I repeated. Her eyes snapped to me. She realized she'd said too much. I mean, it doesn't make sense, she corrected, voice cracking around the edges. But it did make sense, just not to her. I stepped back, looking at the body one more time. The neat room, the perfect placement, the controlled violence. Someone on board was running a playbook step by step, meticulous, intentional. And Grant Vance, he wasn't a casualty. He was a milestone. The Horizon Stars library became my temporary command center. Quiet, insulated, perfect for stripping people down to their behavioral baselines. Hastings hovered near the door, looking like a man expecting bad news in every breath. "Declan," he muttered, "whoever killed Grant, they planned it, right?" "Planned," I said, "executed with precision." The captain started sending passengers to me one by one. One. Lydia Ashford. Lydia entered tight-shouldered, eyes tired but focused. She sat across from me, hands clasped like she was holding herself together. "Between 4 and 5 a.m., I asked, "Where were you?" "In my cabin," she replied quickly. "Door locked." "Interesting," I said. "Grant's door was found slightly open." She bristled. "I'm the victim here." "You were also arguing with Grant last night." Loudly, her expression flickered. He promised something would be handled before this trip, a legal matter. "He told you someone on this ship had leverage over him." A pause, too long. "Yes," she said, "but he didn't tell me who." Lie. She knew more than that, but she was running damage control. I dismissed her. 2. Ellis, the steward. Ellis entered shaking like a man facing a performance review he knew he'd fail. "You found the body," I said. "Again, it's coincidence, sir. I was bringing him coffee. The door was cracked open. I called out, nothing." "Did you see anyone else nearby?" He hesitated. "I heard footsteps, someone running toward the upper deck." "Male? Female?" I couldn't tell. Either Ellis was terrified or he was very good at performing it. 3. Corinne Duval. She moved in with total composure, like chaos never touched her. "Miss Duval," I said, "Grant was digging into your past." "My past is public." "Not all of it," I replied. "Your first husband's death, the insurance dispute, the sealed agreement." A small fracture formed in her otherwise perfect exterior. "He approached me last night," she admitted. "Said he had information that could help me close a chapter." "Did he ask for money?" "No, but Grant Vance never offered help without expecting a return." She held my gaze. "If I wanted Grant dead, Mr. Harrow, I wouldn't have waited for someone else to do it." Cold, sharp, logical, not shaken, dangerous. 4. The pattern. When she left, Hastings stepped closer. "So, any of them clean?" "No," I said. "Every one of them is hiding something." I opened my notebook and listed the fractures. Lydia's timeline too rehearsed. Ellis hears footsteps, but never sees a face. Corinne minimizes a conversation that clearly rattled her. Same gray dirt in Grant's cabin and Lydia's. No forced entry anywhere. Kill time aligned with the quietest window of the night. This wasn't improvisation. This was a controlled sequence. "Grant wasn't a random target," I said quietly. "He was a liability. Someone decided to clean up." Hastings swallowed. "Then who's next?" I closed the notebook. "Whoever breaks first." Because the killer wasn't done. Not even close. By noon, the Horizon Star had the atmosphere of a failing corporation right before an audit. Silent halls, nervous glances, everyone waiting for the next shoe to drop. I returned to the library, pulled the blinds just enough to keep a clear view of the deck, and spread the new intel across the table. Hastings hovered like he expected the puzzle pieces to rearrange themselves. "Declan," he said quietly, "we've got a murder, a theft, and 3 different stories about Grant's last hours." "No," I corrected him. "We've got one story split into 3 agendas." The captain had sent updated passenger records of financial ties, travel histories, legal dust storms. I started cross-referencing. Patterns formed fast. Lydia, Grant, Corinne, they weren't strangers who happened to book the same cruise. Their timelines intersected 5 years ago in Seattle, during an investment dispute gone spectacularly wrong. 3 people, 3 different angles, same event. That wasn't coincidence. That was motive. I called them in again, one at a time. 1. Lydia Ashford, she entered jittery but trying to play composed. Lydia, I said, 5 years ago you represented a startup during a funding dispute. Grant Vance was one of the investors. Corrine Duval's late husband was another. She stiffened. Where did you? That case was sealed. Sealed doesn't mean invisible. She hesitated, then exhaled. Yes, I was counsel. Grant and Mr. Duval lost millions. The founders ran. The case nearly destroyed my career. And Grant blamed me, said I could have protected his stake. He never forgave me. So Grant had dirt on her, leverage, another pressure point. I dismissed her, too. Corrine Duval. Corrine walked in with her usual unshakable calm, a presence that suggested she'd already accepted the worst and moved on. You were involved in the same Seattle deal, I told her. Yes, she said. My husband invested heavily, too heavily. Did the losses contribute to his death? She held still for a moment. My husband took his own life 3 months later. Grant blamed Lydia. I blamed Grant. And Lydia blamed herself. There it was, the triangle: loss, blame, debt. Why hide the connection? I asked. Because grief turns everyone into easy suspects, Mr. Harrow, including me. 3. Philip Lefevre, the missing link. The captain found him sketching alone on deck 2. He entered the library looking confused, hands stained with charcoal. Mr. Harrow, I barely knew the man. You were in Seattle at the same time. Your first gallery opening was funded by Grant Vance, he finished, eyes dropping. Yes, he supported emerging artists. I thought he believed in me. And then he wanted a return on his mentorship, money, influence, favors. He was relentless. So you owed him, Lefevre swallowed. I tried to pay him back, but he kept moving the goalpost. He said if I didn't cooperate, he'd bury my career. Leverage again, the recurring theme. I sent him out and leaned back, letting the thread settle. Hastings stood quiet for a while before finally asking, so what's the picture? A man like Grant doesn't die because one person hates him, I said. He dies because everyone has a reason. And that reason wasn't jealousy or greed. It was a shared past, a shared loss, a shared debt no one wanted to carry anymore. The missing detail: I reviewed the dirt patterns once more, small, pointed smudges near both crime scenes, the same clay tone, same texture. Not from the ship. Deck clay, but not from this ship. Before I could dig deeper, the intercom crackled, the captain's voice sharp and tight. Mr. Harrow, report to the upper deck immediately. We have another situation. Hastings froze. Another body. Could be, I said, already moving. The horizon star kept accelerating towards something dark, and whoever engineered this chain wasn't planning to slow down. The upper deck was empty except for the wind and a single overturned deck chair. No body, no blood, just disruption, intentional and surgical. The captain met me halfway down the walkway, jaw tight. Harrow, he said, one of the storage lockers was breached. Someone tried to access maintenance tools. Which tools? A pry bar, 2 rope coils, and he paused. Emergency access keys. Someone was preparing an exit strategy. Hastings came running up behind us. Declan, Ellis is missing. That snapped everything into place. The scattered dirt, the cracked doors, the panicked demeanor, the coincidences stacking too neatly. Find him, I said. Now we split. I checked the lower decks first: storage, utilities, crew quarters. Footsteps echoed ahead of me near the service corridor. Fast, unsteady. Ellis, I called. Stop running, you're only tightening the noose. A door slammed. I followed. He'd locked himself inside the laundry room. Through the ventilation slot, I heard frantic breathing. Ellis, I said calmly, open the door. You're not in danger from me. No, he choked. You don't understand. They told me to do it. I had no choice. Bingo. Who? I asked. Lefevre, silence. Lydia, a sob. Corrine, a shaky exhale. Then all of them. That wasn't guilt. That was fear. I stepped back. Ellis, listen carefully. You're being positioned as the fall guy. Whoever's orchestrating this is cleaning house, and you're next. The lock clicked. He opened the door an inch, eyes wide, terrified. It wasn't me, he whispered. Grant, he found out something. Something the others didn't want exposed. What? He swallowed painfully. 5 years ago, the startup collapse. It wasn't fraud, it wasn't mismanagement, it was staged. I stared at him. Staged by who? By then Corinne Duval appeared in the corridor doorway, silent, calm, a shadow against the wall. Ellis froze. I spoke first. "Miss Duval, interesting timing." She stepped in, eyes steady. "Ellis, stop talking." He backed away like she was a firing pin. And then I saw it, the gray clay on the heel of Corinne's shoe. The same clay in Grant's cabin, Lydia's. The same smudge Ellis described seeing outside. Hastings arrived behind her, but I raised a hand. "Don't get close." Corinne smiled thinly. "You're quicker than the others, Harrow." "Let me guess," I said. "Your husband's death wasn't a suicide." Her eyes hardened. "He trusted Grant and Lydia. They wiped him out, ruined him. And when he confronted them, they buried the truth. I lost everything." "So you staged a collapse of your own," I said. "Starting with Grant. He deserved worse. And Lydia? She stole the necklace herself. I let her. Fear makes people sloppy. I just redirected her panic. And Lefevre, he owed Grant. And Grant owed me." Ellis raised a trembling hand. "She made me open their doors, move things. She said if I didn't, she'd blame me for everything." Corinne didn't deny it. "You killed your husband's investors," I said. "But why now?" "Because Grant finally cracked," she replied. "He threatened to confess, to clear his conscience. I wasn't going to let him rewrite history as a martyr. And Lydia was next. Until you interfered." She reached into her coat. I moved first, tackled Ellis out of the line of fire. Hastings lunged and grabbed her arm. The captain pinned her before she could reach the blade. Calm, controlled. Even arrested, Corinne Duval didn't break. "You can't save them all, Harrow," she said as the officers dragged her away. "Some debts demand blood." When the ship reached port, Lydia surrendered herself for questioning about the old case. Lefevre offered a statement. Ellis was cleared. The Horizon Star, however, would need years before anyone slept soundly on it again. Hastings joined me on the dockside, exhaling hard. "Well, that's that." "No," I said. "That's the version that goes on paper." "What's the real version?" "That everyone on that ship carried a secret. Corinne just chose to weaponize hers." He nodded. "And you?" I glanced back at the vessel, its polished hull reflecting the sun. "I just closed the file." If you're still here, hit subscribe for the next case. And tell me in the comments, which US city are you solving mysteries from?